why don't we choose Moncton? Now, again, guys, this is just an exercise to show how to research, okay, and where to go to find out some of this information. And there's two reasons why we do that. Number one, we want to be investing in a market that we are confident is going to be economically stable, where the vacancy rate is going to stay low because people are moving in on a continual basis. The population is increasing. And so those are some of the main factors that we're going to be looking for in a market. So where do we find that information? So we're going to start right now, guys, with Moncton. And if we have time, we might do one other market. We'll see how our timing goes tonight. But let's start Googling. That's really what we have to do. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to do this together. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put in Moncton Economic Development. Look at that. I typed it in a few seconds ago as the video was running, and it's coming up. So Moncton Economic Development. So let's say you want St. Thomas or Canmore or St. John. What would we type in? St. John Economic Development or Canmore Economic Development. See what comes up. So one thing I see here right off the bat is monctonimpact.ca. We also see moncton.ca business and development from the city of Moncton. So lots of different options as to where we can go. Some news articles. Moncton's economy is very hot right now, so we could go into there and find out why it's hot. Okay, Southeast New Brunswick economic development. So that's expanding a little bit. So that's, you know, not just the city of Moncton, but maybe Moncton and area is included in that. And there's an economic development division just for that. So what information would they have? Here is another news article. Moncton's labor market or Moncton's cooling economic growth. So maybe it's cooling off a little bit. Just remember that when something is extremely hot, it has to at some point cool off. Nothing stays hot forever, right, guys? So we see a headline like this, we might say, oh, that's a little scary. No, we got to look into the details. So let's just go back to the first one here, this moncton.ca, or sorry, let's go to Moncton Impact. So we see that this here is the economic development for Moncton. All right, so we're researching this particular market. What can we find out? And two reasons why we're doing it, guys. One, for us to know, and two, so that we can share it with others. Because if we want to raise capital or have people invest in our real estate investments with us, we have to be able to tell them why this market that we chose is particularly good. We have to be able to explain that to them. So this is one of the areas where we can start researching that information. So let's see what they have to say here. Why Moncton? Okay, this is a great start, isn't it? Amenities of a bigger city, perfect place to live, room to grow. Here we go, guys. Moncton CMA is the fastest growing population of all Canada's metropolitan areas, with an estimated great growth rate of 5.4%. Okay, so what do we get right off the bat? This place is growing, and it's not only just growing, it's one of the fastest, or actually the fastest growing population of all of Canada's metropolitan areas. Now, throw it in the chat, guys. Do you think that that is good or bad for you as a real estate investor? The population is growing super fast. Is that good or bad for you as a real estate investor? Throw that in the chat. I want to get your opinion. We can expand this a little bit more here and find out a little bit more about it. So we get some information here on the economy. I haven't looked through this, guys, and we're doing this live for a reason, because we need to learn how to find information. Our economy will take your business higher. Guys, we are as real estate investors, we are business owners. So if we are investing into this town, city, whatever it might be, we need to know, are they wanting investment? Are they trying to get us to invest? Well, based on this website so far, it looks like they're wanting people to invest in their town. We get some information, we get some pictures, we get to know a little bit about the business sector. So what really industries are there in Moncton and why does it thrive? Robust financial services. Okay, good to know. Strong information and communications technology sector. Good to know. Extensive business process outsourcing, insurance, a vibrant retail sector, transportation hub, gaming, animation. Interesting things I didn't know about Moncton. Okay, now let's go back. Strategically located. Maybe we've heard of the town, but we don't know really where it is. Well, let's find out a little bit more about that. Premium location. Oh, look at this, guys. Moncton is built on an impressive transportation infrastructure. Not only is our city our gateway to the Canadian East Coast, it's also a key entry point to Canada and the US. It's no wonder that in 2022, Moncton ranked #1 by Money Sense magazine for best place to buy real estate in Canada. Interesting. Do you think this is good news or bad news for us as real estate investors? Money Sense magazine says it's ranked the #1 best place to buy real estate in Canada. That's in 2022. Interesting. So again, lots of information here. So do you get the point, guys, that just by looking at this one website, we are starting to get a bit of a clear picture. What's happening in Moncton? What industries are thriving there? What type of tenants might I be renting to in this particular city or town? Is it growing? Well, we see here that this one is growing quite a bit. If something is growing like this, it's one of the fastest growing towns, then what's going to happen to the supply of real estate, or when real estate does go on the market, or either for sale or for rent, is it going to come off the market pretty quick? Well, if the supply is low and the demand is high, yes. And then what happens to prices, guys? And so we're starting to get a feeling here. If we can find something that cash flows today, do you think that this might be good for a long-term investment based on those industries that we read are kind of driving the economy there? It does make sense. It does make sense. You know, when we read about something that has gone up in value dramatically or is a super hot real estate market, that can sometimes be a turnoff because maybe it's now hard or impossible to find something that cash flows. So these are things that we want to look for. But if we can find something that cash flows and the market is hot and it's going to be for a continual period of time, then maybe it is something that we look at. So there's sides to everything here, guys. Did someone pay for the article in Money Sense? Yeah, that would be, who knows, right? It's possible, absolutely. And what if we go and now see this on 5 other towns' websites? Money Sense says it's the fastest growing or best place to buy or something like that. Well, now we can start discounting maybe the Money Sense magazine. If we don't see it anywhere else, maybe we look up that magazine and we see why they came up with that stat. And we look a little further into some of these quotes that we read on websites, guys, right? Because stats can be made to look any way we want them to look. Okay, so guys, this is just a start, but you kind of get a feeling for what we're trying to accomplish here by looking at this website. If we go into business and development, City of Moncton, so this is a different website now. And again, I wonder what we're going to find here. I have seen this actually in a lot of spots that it's Moncton's bilingual and diverse workforce make it one of the best places in Canada to do business. So there's a lot of people there that are bilingual. I've seen that quite a few spots. So do you notice this tab here for developers? If you're planning to do a project or maybe build an apartment building or something along those lines, some larger projects, you can here find out some of the policies, the zoning bylaws, the building codes, some guidelines, find out the process for getting permits and applications. This is all information here on the City of Moncton website. Are there events? Are there festivals? These are things people want to live near. What happens in the city? What happens in this town? These are things that we want to know as well. What draws people there? What keeps people there long term? Is there anything going on? So these are some of the things that we might want to just look at so we know a little bit more about it. Okay, I'm doing this live, guys, because I haven't actually looked at this website before. Okay, there's immigration support services. That's great. Lots of healthcare services. I mean, it's a larger town. They have a section here on housing. It is easy to rent or buy a house in Moncton, says their website. Gives you a couple options, Kijiji and Realtor.ca. Okay, not much help there in that tab. So we have spent the equivalent of about 9 or 10 minutes now, guys, just looking at a couple of websites when it comes to Moncton. Now, one of the other things that I would suggest to do, other than just economic development type websites, is look at the real estate board website. So I don't know which board it is, but let's just have a look at Moncton Real Estate board. So let's click on that. Let's try this one, Greater Moncton Realtors. This looks like their realtor board. So when you look at the board, so this is, all the brokerages in a particular town or city are all part of a real estate board, and it's that real estate board that typically administers the MLS system, connects them to realtor.ca, all of that sort of stuff. And so when we look at the board, they're going to have the statistics as to the buying and the selling and all of that sort of things. The average price is going up, average price is going down, all of that sort of stuff. So that's usually where we can find a lot of this information. So here we go. We see the home price index, for example. So this is going to the Canadian Real Estate Association, or CREA. It's giving us a link to there. And this is just kind of Greater Moncton. There we go. So we're just going to pick Greater Moncton and apply that. What's been happening to real estate prices? Here we go, guys. Since 2006, we see that the prices were very stable in Moncton, kind of increased. They dipped down in 2015. They dipped again in 2017-ish. Slowly rose until roughly 2020 and had a dramatic increase up into 2022, dipped a little in 2023, and are now rising again. So interesting here that, guys, we can see how prices have been affected in this particular town. Prices have gone up. And you remember some of those headlines that we saw on some of those websites about the fast growth and everything that's happening. That this is pure evidence as to what happens when we do have fast growth. So let's look at the benchmark price as well. So very, very similar. And one thing, guys, I just want you to pay attention to here. Then this you're going to see in almost every single market. Okay, so I'm just going to go. We're going to take this little section here out, and we're just going to have a look at from 2020. So we can zoom in a little bit here on the market from 2005 to 2020. So this is a period of about 15 years for this particular market. Do you notice where it hits its low points? Low point, December. Low point, December. Okay, a high point here in December. Drops a little bit here in December. Okay, a low point in June. Another low point in January. What's here? February, another low point. March, a low point. March, a low point. January, a low point. February, a low point. March, a low point. January, a low point. What can we learn from looking at this graph? And now we're just looking at Moncton. And we're looking at Moncton between 05 and 2020. But just by looking at this graph, and this is the benchmark price performance over time, when do you think is a good time to buy real estate in this particular market? December, January, February, March, every low point we see on this graph, guys, is in the winter months. Why do you think that it makes sense to be buying real estate in the winter months? Now, we're into December, the beginning of December 2023, which means we have December, January, February, March, 4 months ahead of us, which is a low point to be buying real estate as far as prices are concerned. It's cold. It's wintertime. Exactly. So this one graph, we can learn something really, really important, in particular when it comes to Moncton. But I bet you if we put almost any real estate market into this, we're going to find something very, very similar. Is that in the winter months, Canadians don't want to be buying and selling. They don't want to be moving. It's cold outside. It's winter. It's freezing. It's snowing. And so what happens is if people do need to sell and they're selling during the winter, that's usually because they need to sell for one reason or another. And that's when we can usually negotiate a little bit better on the price. Okay. So be aware of that, the same property here, guys, look at this one. This is like 2011 is $170,000 on average, in, let's say September 2011, 169,000, 160,000 in March. Same properties, 10 grand less, waiting 6 months to buy that property. The same property now on average, these are benchmark prices, is immediately up 10 grand come August, is down 10 grand come March. All right. So these trends are things that we want to be aware of when it comes to buying real estate. And this helps us to make decisions on a particular market as well. We've talked about a few different things. We've talked about looking at the economic development websites that are available for that particular market, see what's going on. Is there job creation? What's happening with the economy in those particular markets? We talked about supply and demand. We looked at the CREA website. Well, we actually looked at the Greater Moncton Realtor website, which then brought us to the CREA website, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association, where a lot of these stats are and a lot of these graphs are located. So bookmark that website, crea.ca, and go into the housing market stats section of their website. And this is where you can start to identify some trends. And when we identify the trends like this, guys, sometimes we go out there and we go and negotiate and we leave a deal because we couldn't get it for $5,000 cheaper or $10,000 cheaper. Well, we probably can get it for $10,000 cheaper if we're negotiating properly and we're doing it during the winter months. Right now, you can negotiate and buy something in the winter months and not close on it until spring. And so then you don't have to worry about the winter months. So you can have a long closing on a property. So there's nothing wrong with that. Take advantage of the pricing and close on it later. So there's so many different ways that you can skin this cat, guys. And it's just a matter of doing a little bit of research, finding out the numbers, and understanding what is important as to you. Maybe whether you pay $10,000 more or less in this particular market doesn't make a big difference to you. And maybe you get a great deal in the middle of summer. And that can happen too, guys. So just be aware of what's happening and research it and know what is happening or what has happened in the past at the very least.